Welcome to the 1 Minute Apologist. My name is Bobby Conway. Our guest here in this program is Dr. Ken Boa. It's a pleasure to be with you, Dr. Boa.
Thank you. Glad to be with you.
We know that you have been a sought-after speaker for years and an author of many books, and we know one of the books you've written on is giving answers to those who are atheists. And that is a big rising question right now. We know with the rise of the new atheism, this curiosity of does God exist is a real question that people want answers to. Let's say you had 60 seconds to talk to somebody and they said, Dr. Boa, does God exist? What would you say to them?
I would probably use 4 incontrovertible features of the world and just quickly list them, because most people really haven't thought through those objections very well. And by just listing positive things that we know are scientifically incontrovertible, it puts really the weight of evidence and the burden of proof on them. At the end of the day, the first one of these is the fact that the universe had a beginning, and that therefore the universe is a contingency that requires some kind of causality. It cannot always have existed, and nothing comes out of nothing. So that's the first one of the things. The second approach I take is the fine-tuning of the cosmos. And I argue that the more we know from science, the more impressive the fact becomes that the universe is more elegant, more finely tuned than we could have ever even imagined, such that the probability of having even one life-sustaining planet is virtually infinitesimal. And so it requires some kind of fine-tuner, and so there are aspects of that one could look at. A third of the features of the world is the origin of life itself, and how life requires a minimal level of complexity and structure and design. Ultimately, it requires so much that, in fact, the idea of spontaneous generation is virtually what people are still embracing, because the idea of forming a simple protein, let alone the DNA, let alone the cell, is utterly impossible. And the more we're learning, actually, the more science is showing that the evidence requires more of a problem relative to understanding the beginning of life itself. It's not that it's going to become simpler. We can predict it's going to become even more wonderfully elegant and surprising. The fourth of these evidences that I like to use concerns the fact that there is an information-rich sphere in which we live. I think of the DNA, for example, and the genetic code. And in every one of our 70 to 100 trillion cells, each cell has 6 feet of DNA that contains the equivalent of many sets of Encyclopedia Britannicas, rich in information. Information by itself cannot really be reduced to matter and energy. It transcends the media itself. And yet we know what information is like. It requires intentionality. And information in the DNA is like a language that actually signifies a very real physical action. And that information consists of an alphabet, words, syntax or grammar, and intentionality as well. And so these are things that at least put the evidence of science on our side.
Thank you, Dr. Boa. I hope that you were encouraged as much as I was in listening to the credibility that we have to believing that God does indeed exist. For more information on Dr. Boa's ministry, please visit kenboa.org.